Welcome back to more coverage of the NHL Free Agent Frenzy. We have some more signings to report. Some of the players we talked about yesterday is rumored to be signing have signed contracts. So we'll get into all those details coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, we have some more signings to discuss here, so let's jump right in. Now we're going to start off today talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs have re-signed defenseman Justin Hall to a 2-year deal worth $675,000. Now the key component here to mention is this is a one-way deal. That means for Justin Hall, he's pretty well assured a roster spot in Toronto, but if they want to send him down to the Marlies, he will have to go through waivers. Obviously, Justin Hall has been a pretty strong performer at the AHL level and has done pretty well during his time with the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. Obviously scored a goal in his first couple games, so he looked pretty good when he had a chance to play in Toronto. So obviously putting him through waivers is probably not something that they really want to do. So based on all that, I would think the odds of him remaining on the main roster through training camp and into the beginning of the season are pretty solid. Obviously, if you take a look at the rest of their defense core, he likely could be like a number 6, number 7 guy. Depending on what else they do here for any other roster moves during the offseason, that could potentially change. The only notable change so far on the back end for the Leafs so far during this offseason is they opted not to bring back Roman Polak. So under contract for next season right now, they have Morgan Rielly, Nikita Zaitsev, Jake Gardiner, Ron Hainsey, Travis Dermott, Connor Carrick, and now, of course, Justin Hall as well. So there's 7 defensemen under contract. Now, they also have some other guys at the AHL level that, I guess may be able to compete for a spot here. So we'll see what happens through training camp. But due to their contracts, they will be, easier to retain in the Marlies system. I think some defensemen like Timothy Liljegren still a year or so away. Calle Rosen and Andreas Borgman look pretty solid though during their time that they've had in the AHL and brief time in the NHL level here as well. So they can very well may get a look this year. Hard to say, but obviously depending on injuries, they very well may get some games. But it looks as though, barring any other moves, Justin Hall likely starts the year in Toronto. Now, one of the more notable signings that happened that came late yesterday was Calvin Haan signing a 4-year contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, obviously, we've talked a lot about Haan and speculation where he may go. He's certainly one of the better defensemen available in free agency this season. And right now, the Hurricanes were not a team that we really discussed. There was a lot of speculation he could go back to the island. There was some speculation that the Leafs were trying to bring him over as well. Obviously, that's not where he ended up. Carolina kind of flew under the radar here. There's not a team that I had really heard much about in regards to Calvin Haan, but they've signed him to a 4-year contract, and his annual value is $4.55 million per year. So that gives him a pretty solid top 4 pairing. That certainly gives them more trade options as well for possibly moving a guy like Justin Falk, who's been mentioned in trade rumors for quite some time, pretty well since near the end of the season here. So we'll see what happens in Carolina, but they certainly have a lot of defensemen there that, if it's not Falk, it could be somebody else that gets moved. The amount of defensemen in Carolina, plus the prospects they have, guys like Jake Bean, Hayden Fleury still fighting for spots there. More than likely, I would think that Justin Falk or possibly one of their left side defensemen possibly here gets moved during the offseason to make room for some of their youngsters. Maybe a Trevor Van Riemsdyk possibly gets moved as well. Hard to say, but at this point in time, adding to Haan certainly gives more than enough defensemen in Carolina, so I fully suspect at least 1, possibly 2 of them to be traded out here before training camp gets underway. Now, as we've been speculating here, Robin Leonard has landed with the New York Islanders. He signed a 1-year contract for $1.5 million. So obviously that's not a very long-term deal and it's not big money. But based on his play, that's the best he was able to obtain right now. So he'll have his shot with the Islanders to kind of reprove himself and see if he's worthy of getting an extension for a better contract here for more money. But obviously at this point in time with the Islanders losing John Tavares, the Islanders are certainly going to be going through some changes and a little bit of a difficult time, I would suspect, going into next year. So hard to say how Leonard does. Obviously, the team in front of him until they improve that defense, especially with the Haan not going back now. He could be in for some tough times again, but Robin Leonard on a 1-year deal with the New York Islanders. Another notable signing, too, is the St. Louis Blues have re-signed Robby Fabbri to a 1-year deal. Obviously, Fabbri has been one of their top prospects for a while and has never really gotten a chance to really develop into an NHL player due to some pretty serious injuries. He missed all of last season, but he has been cleared medically to be able to resume training and get back into training camp here in the fall. So hopefully Robby Fabbri can finally be healthy all year. I mean, he shows tremendous talent. So we'll see here if Fabbri can put this all together, stay healthy, and make the Blues here. Obviously, adding a scoring punch from him certainly would help go a long ways into helping this Blues team. With the other changes they've made, they should certainly have an easier time scoring some goals this coming season with their secondary scoring besides their top line, which obviously produced at a pretty good rate last year, but they need more secondary scoring to move forward, and Fabbri will be a big help in making that happen. We have a few other signings to throw in here as well, some less notable names, but still worth mentioning as well. Brad Richardson has remained an Arizona Coyote for 2 more years. He signed a contract extension to stay with the Coyotes organization. It was likely speculated. I really thought he was going to be moving on. I didn't think the Coyotes were going to bother re-signing him. Not that I really had him linked to other teams per se, but it looked as though they may be going in a different direction and without Richardson. But they've opted to bring him back here on a 2-year deal. Brad Richardson's contract gives him a value of $1.25 million per year over those 2 years, so not a bad signing there. We've also seen the Anaheim Ducks sign Brian Gibbons to a 1-year, $1 million contract. So obviously yesterday I mentioned when the Ducks signed Carter Rowney, they likely weren't bringing back Derek Grant. I have found confirmation that Derek Grant won't be returning to the Ducks. Obviously they brought in Gibbons and Rowney both for those bottom center roles, so obviously they have no need for Derek Grant. It's unfortunate really because I thought he played pretty well for the Ducks down the stretch last year, but I guess he'll be moving on yet again, trying to find another home here in the NHL. So Gibbons goes to the Ducks on a 1-year, $1 million deal. And finally, we're going to mention here, New York Islanders have signed former Penguin Tom Kuhnackel to a 1-year deal worth $700K. Obviously, he was one of the Penguins who were opted not to be re-signed and became a UFA, and now he's a member of the New York Islanders. Now, amongst the unsigned players that are still floating around up there, probably one of the most notable is Patrick Maroon. There's still no clear, definite answer into where he's going to be heading. I've seen some speculation now that the St. Louis Blues are in the mix. Yesterday I mentioned I wasn't sure if they were still kind of kicking tires on Maroon or not. Obviously, they made that big trade. We are bringing in Ryan O'Reilly, but even though they brought in O'Reilly in that big contract, they were able to move out enough contract as well with Berglund and Saboka that they really aren't any further ahead with the salary cap. So they still have a decent room there. So they very well could fit Maroon into the mix should they decide to go down that road. But I guess they are in discussions there. It doesn't look like Maroon's going back to New Jersey from what we can tell. I know I did see something on Twitter. I haven't verified this, but he had updated his Instagram account to remove New Jersey from the profile. I don't know if he actually did that or not. You can check that out if you wish. So that, I guess, was one of the speculations that he wasn't going back to the Devils. But you would think if New Jersey was going to re-sign him, they likely would have done it by now, considering that all the options that they've had to look at here through free agency, that if they were going to do this, you think this would have been done. So hard to say. I mean, there is still some speculation he may be looking at the Oilers, and I've even seen the Flames. Even though the Flames signed James Neal, I thought they might be out on Maroon, but apparently that's not completely ruled out. But I think the Flames would have a tougher time squeezing him in here. But I think one of the sticking points might be he's looking for some term and some money, and I think teams might be a little reluctant to give him what he's asking for, so they're kind of wait this out to see if he can soften his demand, which he's going to have to do. If he waits too long, he could miss out altogether and really screw this up for himself. So hopefully we get a Maroon signing here soon for his best interest at least, because I think he can fit and still play. I still think Maroon can contribute here at the NHL level, obviously, so it'd be nice to see him sign somewhere and get this looked after, but he's really the main name out there outside of Rick Nash, which right now it's unclear if Rick Nash is going to be playing next season. At some point over the summer, we may get a little bit more clarity on whether or not he is going to or not, but obviously at this point he's taking his time, and it's not clear what Nash's future plans are going to hold. The other notable free agent still on the market as well as Anthony Duclair. We mentioned yesterday that it appeared as though Montreal and Pittsburgh were both interested in signing the free agent winger, but as of right now there's still no further news to report. It does appear to be a fair bit of interest, but obviously not sure what's taking so long on this front, because obviously he's going to end up with a short-term deal, likely pretty low value as well, in order for a chance to kind of reprove himself here at the NHL level. So I'm not sure what's going on with Duclair, so we don't have any further news there, but it does appear as though Pittsburgh and Montreal are still interested in giving him a chance. So that's your update for today for all the latest NHL free agent signings. So stay tuned here for more signings as we get more reports of players signing NHL contracts. We'll certainly provide future updates as they happen, but we're kind of getting to the point where free agency is starting to wind down. There's not a whole lot left out there, but there's still lots of trade talk heating up for sure. on various big names around the NHL. So stay tuned here for another video coming out here later today, discussing some of those latest trade rumors, and we'll discuss further as the action picks up on the trade front, but we will still report on free agency depending on what goes down, if there's much left to report on here in the next little while. So if you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there is plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.